All right, I'm going to try this podcast thing again. And in this episode, I'm going to try to give recaps of the games that I've played this week because I'm getting older and I tend to forget details the further away they are. So with our shark named Narwhal rolling around in the background, I'm going to title this podcast, The GMologist Presents Before I Forget. But first, I have a couple call-ins from my first episode. One from Joe Richter of Hindsightless Podcast, and the other from Jason Connerly of Nerds RPG Variety Podcast.
Hey Carl, Jason here. Just want to say, really enjoyed the first podcast. Welcome to the Anchor community. You did some great gaming recaps there, and that actually works out wonderfully for me because now I don't have to recap the games I play with you. I can just refer people to your podcast. So that is what I plan to do in the future. I also look forward to listening to your future episodes. So keep up the great work. You're off to a great start, and you'll sort out all the bits and bobs on Anchor pretty quick. It's pretty intuitive, so I have faith you can handle it. Take care.
What's up, Carl? Congratulations on putting out a podcast. I'm excited to dive into it. You know a ton about gaming. You got interesting takes. You're a smart dude, so it should be interesting. And for sure, that is such a bummer about the Iron Maiden songs and how we can't use them on here. It'd be amazing. I use their lyrics as episode titles all the time. I hope they don't come after me for that. Anyway, dude, peace out.
You don't remember, I'll never forget. You just don't remember, I'll never forget. Okay, the first set of games I'm going to talk about are games that I played this weekend where Kevin Madison of Dungeon Musings Actual Play and Dungeon Musings Podcast GM'd. And Kevin does a great job of something that I maybe would like to do and maybe can do in the future. And he really uses our hobby as a platform to support a charity that is very close to his heart, which is SOS Children's Charities, and I'll put a link again in the show notes. And he runs a yearly donation solicitation as well as events throughout the year where he asks for support. He doesn't ask for any money personally for any of his games that he runs, but all the money that he does raise goes directly to the SOS Children's Charities, which is a great way to use our platform, our gaming platform, to help others. So the games I played were Astonishing Swordsmen and Sorcerers of Hyperborea, which I have heard is by Jeffrey Talanian, and I've heard that they're coming with a third edition that's going to add a lot of content based on some interviews that I've looked at, and it's going to change some of the mechanics that are thrown in the big tome that is the second edition, Astonishing Swordsmen and Sorcerers of Hyperborea. And he's also changing the branding to just Hyperborea, because I think we call it Hyperborea or Ash for short anyway. I think that's a great move by Jeffrey Talanian. I'm hoping that he will also have some adventures with that. As someone who is pretty busy doing real-life work stuff, I like to have these two adventures a lot of the times that are pre-prepared instead of running spontaneously off the cuff. Although, I guess sometimes when I do that, it works out pretty well too. So the Ash game, we're 6-level characters. We've been playing this game for a while. I would say a year and a half, maybe. And I play an Amazonian warlock who is a necromancer, or necromancy is her focus. Her name is Iphigenia Acantadoros. Basically, and she has a big sword. She can go sword and shield. She can go two-handed sword with her hand in half. She can use in traditional Greek-like themed hoplite style shield and spear. And she can throw down some magic. And in our game, we got transported to some other part of Hyperborea, and we've been trying for a while. At least my character, in their mindset, has been trying for a while to find a way home because we have some investment that we've done over the campaign where we have a keep and we have allies and we want to make our claim as landholders and stakeholders in this region of Hyperborea called Thule. But we're not there right now. We got captured by some alien entities. They messed with us, and then we escaped, and now we're in this other kind of, I would say, lost world area that's bounded on both sides by towering, almost impassable mountains. It's full of jungle. There are prehistoric creatures and giant-sized creatures of that ilk. So I would say kaiju are in existence, and there's definitely a more feel of super science that's gotten involved. So we had this one long adventure where we defeated this mage ghost in a tower, and the tower was destroyed by a kaiju. Once that mage was defeated, apparently there were rivals, and then we camped or are hiding or taking refuge after being beat up a bit from several encounters with a group of denizens led by a sorcerer type called the Monkey Meister, and he's given us a task so he can help us even more. He promises we can find a way to get home. And I think I'm gonna pause because the shark narwhal is acting weird. Okay, narwhal wasn't acting weird. It just ran over something that made it rattle a lot. I'm sure the noise was distracting, and I apologize. Narwhal, our shark, is a strange thing. It does save us a lot of time cleaning up in the house, so all we have to do is mop over once it picks up all the dust and accumulation over the day or so. And it puts things into its storage bin. I guess if it runs over something that it can't quite get into its storage bin, it rattles a bit until it gets back to the docking station and then has it all get sucked up. I'm sure that one day the sharks will take over and develop true sentience as AIs. Actually, there was an episode in Love, Sex, and Robots, the new season, where that kind of happened. The Roomba or shark went kind of crazy. Pretty funny. Anyway, that's a distraction. Let's get back to Astonishing Swordsmen and Sorcerers of Hyperborea, the recap. So we got this task by this individual sorcerer named the Monkey Meister, and he leads a band of uplifted ape-like creatures, and he wants it to go check out this tower in the lake. That sounds familiar. I hope it's not the same mini adventure that Jason Connerly gave us in Barbarians of Lemuria. It would be kind of funny. I mean, a lot of these little mini adventures, 5-room dungeons, are recycled here and there. I've used a few in the games that I run as well. Anyway, so Kevin loves the procedural. We have to take stock of rations and water in the jungle. We have to tramp through the jungle, and we do random encounters. And we came upon this village. It was abandoned. By the end of the day, no encounters during the day, which was kind of nice. And we camped outside the village on this rise. And at night, the villagers came back. And what they were undead monkey beings. And it was actually pretty tenuous. We later learned that frog beings. And we later learned that these undead frog creatures, you can imagine basically a group of undead bullywugs or deep one types. They were more frog-like than fish-like. They hopped. He actually modeled them as a whites. So they did the energy drain thing, which is a really harsh, especially in the older type games, really harsh non-damage thing. It drains the level. I'm sure you all know. It's been the bone of contention. I've had of many a player. I've had players rage quit because they were drained. So there you go. I think Kevin did it pretty well. The players are also, including myself, are pretty cool about it. I did tell him about the problems of energy drain, and I think he, instead of having straight out you lose a level, he modeled it, the energy drain, after a 3.5 mechanic where you temporarily lose your level. You could still die and become an undead creature if you lose all your levels, but you don't make you make a second save at the end of the day or the next day to see if those were temporary or permanent. So it gives you like at least a second chance to not take the level drain. That's just one of those things. It makes wights and wraiths and vampires very, very scary. So there are like 27 of these creatures, and I honestly don't know how we survived. Actually, my character is usually the one who takes a lot of damage, gets snuck up upon, gets ambushed by all sorts of vermin. But she held fast, cast some magic. She has a ring of shooting stars, and there was one perfect opportunity. Thank you, Kevin Madison, that he grouped all the bad guys in a perfect 10 by 10 section. There's like 8 or so of them. And she used her weekly shooting stars thing, and they all exploded into undead frog parts. So we survived more or less intact. The stragglers were taken out by a combination of use of her magic, and I was just rolling like lights out. I mean, I don't think I rolled less than a 15 on my attacks on a d20, and she was just cutting things down left and right. I moved locations. My wife got home, so I had to move. She wanted to talk. So, right. So we survived the undead frog man encounter. I was actually uninjured. The other the other players' characters did take some injuries, and one lost at least a level from the energy drain attacks. The next day we went to the village and found some cool stuff that we'll have to figure out what they do. And I was happy to be able to finally sit back and cast some magic, although that was my shooting star weekly. So hopefully we don't have to get into something like that again. But I mean, I've had it for a while, and that's the first time I've used it, right? So the next day we continue on our journey towards this water tower, and we leave with a cliffhanger wherein we ran afoul of a Tyrannosaurus Rex. Like I said, this area that we're in is Lost World-ish. And as we wait to see what happens next, Iphigenia gets her shield ready, gets her spear ready to receive a charge. Maybe it'll be the last time. We will see.
Raise your horns, raise them up to the sky. We will drink to glory tonight. Raise your horns for brave fallen friends. We will meet where the beer never ends.
So the game I played with, where Kevin Madison ran, was Iron Gods, Savage Worlds. Actually, it's Savage Worlds Pathfinder. He's running Road to the Iron Gods, a prelude to what he wants to do for his yearly marathon gaming sessions that he runs for his birthday. And he's going to run a converted Iron Gods adventure path, converted from Pathfinder to Savage Worlds, which I'm pretty excited for. I think I mentioned already that I play a dwarven magus, which is like a fighter magic user. She wields a giant sword and shoots out fire bolts and imbues her sword with magical fire. The cool thing about Savage Worlds is you can change the trapping of your magic by spending power points. It's less Vancian. Although maybe you could probably adjust it to making it more Vancian magic casting. I mean, Savage Worlds is tremendous. It's pretty flexible. I've enjoyed playing it a lot. Um, and I used to also dislike this game or not play this game because I didn't understand how it worked exactly. That's a common theme. I will have to amend that type of behavior for me and be more open to playing games because I really enjoy playing. I think what I generally do if I don't understand the game, I make sure I play first to try to comprehend the rules. I think the next one I really need to do with that is the Gumshoe system, Trails of Cthulhu, etc. I just need to play it or see it play it a couple times before I'm confident enough to run it. So with Iron God Savage Worlds, again, it was a big fight. I did not say or mention in Ash that one big fight took the whole session. We play like 3 hours, and it took a while. And it happened in Savage Worlds also, where, if you recall, we had caught the attention of a group of fanatical religious folks who also like to delve in the strange ruins of Numeria, named the Hellions, and they sent a force to try to figure us out or deal with us. We hid in some grass and started shooting at them. I kind of got there late, so I don't know if there was an attempt at negotiation or not. Maybe the players decided nope. And I was definitely concerned because we were short players, especially we were short our healer guy, the guy who plays our healer, Ambrosius the android, because he was really great support in other combats where we get wounded and he'd patch us up or he'd give us a buff to help us with our fighting. But he was not there, so it was just myself and two other players. One was a gunslinger ranger type, and the other one was a monk, a rat folk monk. I think they're called Isoki. They're located in Starfinder, but I guess Kevin's imported them to Pathfinder. Maybe they're in Pathfinder. Someone who would know would be Joe Richter, since he is a Pathfinder expert that we know of on the Audio Dungeon Discord. So, are they Yusoki or rat folk, Joe Richter? Oh, I guess I should also comment on on the little interlude. I don't know if it came across well or not, but hopefully did. I've tried a few times. I'm not the best singer, but I like music and I try to sing along, and it's usually kind of flat. But hey, if you can name me the song and the artist from where that quote comes from, I'll throw your name into the bin or I'll give you a bonus point and throw your name into the bin for something. I don't know what I will do with that bin. Maybe a raffle, maybe after a quarter, all those one name gets pulled and you maybe get a Drive-Thru RPG gift card. Not a big one, but something to say, hey, I know my musical trivia. I might try that here and there. We'll see. Anyway, Iron Gods. So we hid in this grass and we took the charges that they had. Again, I was rolling pretty damn good. And I did not get injured. So 2 days in a row in Kevin Madison's games, my characters did not get injured. So that probably sets me up for the next time we play. One of them's going to fall, right? Kate, the only mishap that Kate had is she tried to cast a protection spell on everyone and it failed miserably. So she was fatigued. That didn't seem to help because of the way my dice were rolling. I got a lot of exploding dice, both attacks and damage especially, and was cutting down zombies and Hellion scrappers left and right. I was hoping we would take prisoners, but it seems like the other players did not have that in mind. The leader of the group that assaulted us, some sort of necromancer, a female hobgoblin, she split. She turned invisible with one of her hench people and split. So we defeated this group. It was quite a big group. I would say about a dozen foes, and again, 3 heroes wildcards held their own. So I think it was only extras that we fought, and 1 wild card, I believe. The sorceress was a wild card, right? So we licked our wounds, fled or fell back to our camp that we had set up, and then we decided to investigate their archaeological dig that they were performing. The whole reason that we had come to this place to investigate this ruin that they were already camping at. And we looked over their camp. We talked about what type of distraction we wanted to make, because we want to investigate the ruin, which looks to be like a down part of the spaceship. So we're going to try to set up some sort of distraction to get the camp all riled up while we sneak in to the ruin. And that'll happen next time on Road to the Iron Gods.
Vocal ideations.
All right. I ran 2 games during the week. The first game I will talk about is Tuesday night's game of High Colonies, and I run that game, and the players are Arlen Walker of Live from Pelham's Wasteland, Jason Connerly from Nerds Variety RPG Cast. I'm sure I say that wrong every time. And our friend Matt Warner, who we've never seen before. He keeps his camera off. Maybe he doesn't have a camera, but he plays in a lot of my games. You probably have seen him on the Audio Dungeon Discord as Irks, and he's on Dungeon Musings Discord as well. Anyway, I've talked about High Colonies before. I feel like it's a beta product, and it could have used an editorial pass to catch inconsistencies in the rules, and it could have used, I would say, an overhaul. It's a bit anachronistic in its concepts, sci-fi wise. It was made in the 80s, and we've had many technological breakthroughs that make sci-fi more advanced, or a lot of modern contemporary sci-fi talks about these advancements or incorporates these advancements, and this game does not. So there are some problems. The players, I think, are indulging me. Arlen actually mentioned, well, you like Hardmaster. We just give you a hard time about it, as you know, and we're just seeing how this plays out. But the first 2 sessions, I think, were pretty cool. This was the 3rd session. We actually finished the published adventure, or outline of an adventure, really. The product was more of a gazetteer of the Asteroid series, and a short outline for an adventure that went, like I said, pretty well, and we finished it actually as a one-shot in one time. And there were 4 players at that point. 1 player has not been able to make the last 2 sessions, and actually Jason was unable to make last night's session, but we kept on. When we last left the players, Jason and Matt's character had abducted someone that can give them a lot of information on the guy that set them up. So they did that successfully. They jumped into their shuttle and blasted out of the dock unauthorized, but because the pilot is like the best damn pilot in the solar system, named Johnny Ringo, and that's who Arlen plays. So when I picked up, and I did 2 things. I did 1 thing. I actually converted all their characters, maybe to gain some excitement in the game, because we were not thrilled with the rules. I converted all their characters to Savage Worlds using the Spacefarer's Companion and the Lost Parsec with the addendums from the new Suede. And I thought actually the characters are pretty damn good. Seasoned characters with some high competency in their area of expertise. I mean, Johnny Ringo was literally the best damn pilot that you've ever seen in a Savage World sci-fi game. Anyway, so they looked at the characters very quickly, agreed with the choices I had made, and we went for it. So when they blasted out of Electra space station, the people who had been their foil for the last two adventures, or were after them, or who had originally wanted the mule harmony for their own nefarious purposes, followed them in a larger vessel. So we ran a chase, and Savage Worlds does this pretty neat. You put out a series of cards, and you just kind of go along the card track, and you make various rolls based on your skills, or decide what you want to do. And Matt's character was taunting them the whole time, so I let him distract him. Arlen's character was rolling very nicely and getting raises on his piloting. So there were a few close calls as the bad guys were firing missiles at them, and then their shuttle doesn't have any actual weapons. It has a defensive platform, like a anti-missile laser platform that has limited use. So Savage World's pretty easy to run. Characters who aren't there more or less as NPCs. So Leon's character is a pretty good gunner, so he kind of fired the chaff and fired the battery at the missile and diffused a lot of, and I didn't take any damage. It ended up the way I ran the mechanic there, basically used their ability to soak the damage, so they didn't even have to roll vehicle loss of control, because Leon, I think, I don't know if Arlen or Matt rolled. Whoever rolled on the Roll20 rolled very well and succeeded fantastically. So, all right. So they got to the rendezvous point that they had arranged with the rival corporation, and landed in the crater. The rival corporation's people were waiting for them to take them, back underground into, to safety and refuge. But Leon left a surprise for the bad guys, because Arlen's character, Johnny Ringo, had noticed that they had landed and were probably going to kind of go over the surface of Ceres and try to deal with them. So Leon left a surprise. They'd found a missile, or actually Taiga, Matt's character, had remembered they had some missiles in their cargo hold. So Leon rigged one up to go kaboom. It successfully went kaboom. The characters heard it, went back out to investigate. They saw that several of these bad guys are called the Band of Humanity. So, very much hate anyone that is not them, type of polity or reactionary group. The leader was still staggering around. I had been forced to use my bennies to make sure he didn't die outright, because, I always want to keep a bad guy around. But he was staggering around trying to patch up his vac suit. Wasn't succeeding. Actually, I couldn't even, he was so messed up and I was rolling poorly that he couldn't even unshake from the trauma. And Johnny Ringo and Leon took some shots at him. Johnny Ringo missed, or shook him up again maybe. Didn't do any damage. But Leon just put a hole through him with his pulse rifle, which is like a laser carbine. So they took the guy out. I guess had the company collect the bodies, or what was left of the extras that these bad guys had were just vaporized with the demolition explosion that Leon had set up. So Jason, even though you weren't there, your character did a hell of a lot. It blew up, and we finally got some combat in this game. We haven't really had any combat, but I don't know if we're continuing, honestly. The characters, I guess, were wanting to do other things. One character expressed they'd rather do something more one player communicated they'd rather do something more space opera and less, hard sci-fi, near future sci-fi. I mean, the problem is High Colonies can't decide what it wants to do. So I suggested maybe going to Lost Parsec. I would love to do Eclipse Phase. The system's pretty complicated from what I remember, especially character creation, generation, keeping track of your character, since you really don't have a permanent body. You just have a permanent, like, cortex, right? Cortical stack, I think it is called. So maybe that. We're also waiting, honestly, for the Starfinder version of Kingmaker Adventure Path that's supposed to come up this summer. Off the top of my head, it's going to be called Horizons of the Vast Adventure Path, and I will read the blurb from the Paizo website. As part of a massive effort to explore and develop an uninhabited planet full of valuable resources, the heroes are placed in control of a settlement and must deal with challenges from both within and without. It sounds very much like Expanse Season 4, and it is Kingmaker in space. So that's what we might be waiting for. We'll see how that goes. But I don't think we're going to revisit High Colonies. I did finish the story arc. There you go. All right, the last game I run this week is a continuation of our Iron Kingdoms Legacy of the Witchfire game. It is Iron Kingdoms the 5e version. And if you recall from last time, if you listen to the other podcast, that the characters had captured one of the bad guys, a man of the Powder Rat gang, who was part of a plot. They had been trying to distribute explosives in the sewers. Who knows if they're going to put him up on the surface, but their plan, according to this low-level ne'er-do-well, was to disrupt the festivities of the Long Night Festival in the city of Corvus, in the country of Signar, on the continent of Imoran, in the Iron Kingdom's world. So the characters were a bit wary. The players were wary of their characters because they got shot up the last time they got into a fight. But they got the jump with the help of this man that they had captured. They got the jump on the next group as they busted out from the sewers through a trapdoor into their hideout. Actually, it was kind of cool that one of the characters had asked, well, is there another way in or out? And I let him make a roll to notice that there was a side tunnel. He sent his steam jack up that side tunnel to a ladder that led to a manhole cover in the alley nearby. So his jack climbed up the ladder and was kind of ready to, outside of the hideout, to run through the wall Kool-Aid Man style. So that worked to perfection. You had the Kool-Aid Man steam jack running through the wall, which he rolled great, so I let it happen. One character had snuck so well that he was almost looking at over the shoulders of the cards that they were, at the cards that these men were playing on a stealth. They kind of took him down pretty quickly. I mean, a surprise is important. Lucky rolls are important. Some tried to get away, but they chased him down, and then they realized that one of the guys who was running was trying to get to a warehouse across another alleyway. That in this section of town, everything looked run down, but that warehouse, even though closed and it didn't look like anything was happening, was still in good shape. So they decided to fall back and talk to their superiors. One of the characters, who's a face, he's a rogue. He managed to convince the watch captain to let him have some backup. So they had 4 constables with them, and they took a short rest in the 5e parlance to recover, repair the jack, get things going. They had been pretty subtle and sneaky so far, so I didn't let the bad guys know that they were coming, really, until they were actually there. So they reconnoitered the warehouse. A couple characters screwed up and were noticed. but one character who had climbed onto the roof found some trap doors, kind of acted as Overwatch, as some guards kind of were trying to chase another character, so they kind of stopped things from getting out of control. Another character basically did like a super heroic, I thought it was very cool, dive through one of the windows and start shooting, followed by the Jack and the Warcaster and the constables from one end. The strange, they noticed that these bad guys, these powder rat gang guys in the warehouse, they're being led by someone who was controlling a steam jack as well, and the steam jack was moving crates that had like, the words fragile, volatile substance, handle with care, painted on the sides of them. So one character, so they actually focused on the leader. One character who had played War Machine before realized that take out the quote unquote Jack Marshall who's giving orders to the Steam Jack, and the Steam Jack isn't going to be as effective. So they shot him, scattergunned him, and then one character, the gunslinger in that group, fired at the crate that said volatile substance, and it the first time he fired, some strange creature jumped out of it and started running around, scaring the hell out of the powder gang folks. They didn't recognize what the creature was. And then he shot it again, and this time it exploded in a massive fireball, damaging the Jack and nearly killing the Jack Marshall, the leader of the powder gang group, who caught on fire and then died the next round. Actually, things went pretty well. The other strange thing that happened is this woman ran into, that they didn't know did not seem to be part of the gang, ran into the warehouse and started looking through crates as well, grabbed one of the powder rat gangers, and killed him with necrotic magic, and then shook his body and said, "Where is it? Where is my sword?" Basically. The characters didn't really interact with this woman because they had other more important things. Another character again went down to gunfire, but he was rescued before he expired. It was pretty exciting. It was a big combat, and I was surprised we got through 2 combats. I guess our session went a little long, but there were about a dozen bad guys and 8 good guys, right? So 20 combatants in this warehouse space. I really enjoy playing with these guys. They really pay attention, take advantage of the terrain, do fun, crazy things, and we try to make the 5e rules work, or I try to make the 5e rules work for them. I guess as a GM, I always like a great idea. Sometimes you need a roll, sometimes you don't. You give me a good case, and I think my players know that. Maybe they exploit it. That if you give me a good case and argument, I'll give you an advantage on the roll because I want you to succeed, because I want cool things to happen, like you running along the catwalk and shooting down at the bad guys, diving through a window, rolling up and shooting or moving, to cover. I want the Steam Jack to Kool-Aid man through the wall. I just think it's fun and it's cool, and the characters get into it. So they cleaned up. They got their reward as good mercenary auxiliary police force as the rest of the police showed up, since they were making a lot of noise and explosions on the docks, etc. And they found out that the woman was famous. The crazy woman that they saw was a famous woman named Alexia Cianor, who, if any of you know Iron Kingdoms and the Witchfire trilogy lore, is that same Alexia Cianor 20 years later. It seems that she's gone mad. So Father Dumas shows up, the leader of the church in Moro, and takes her, that's his ward, it's his niece, I believe. He takes her into custody. He's followed by 2 nuns that help, calm her down, because she basically escaped from the asylum, or the Church of Morrow. And she's looking, apparently the characters, it was great because one of the characters actually played the original Witchfire trilogy. He played it twice, and he'd say, if my Ogren Boker were here, he would know basically what happened 20 years ago. So the characters actually made their lore rolls. They realized who it was, which I thought was kind of neat. And I gave them the info dump as such. Basically, Alexa Cianor had risen a host of undead using her magical sword called the Witchfire to assault the city. But then later, she saved the city from an invasion of creatures called, or of a ethnic group called the Scorn, who came from the desert and were being led into the city by the deposed brother, or basically a disenfranchised nobleman who wanted to be in charge. And Alexia raised undead to fight them. So she saved the city. She had many other adventures, and apparently her last misadventure made her go mad, where she fought what is called an infernal. It's like a demon, and defeated it, but then something bad happened. So the characters don't quite know what. They learn that the Witchfire is missing, and we stopped there. We'd run over. The adventure suggests milestone XP, so that advanced from first to second level. So maybe they'll have more staying power when they're firing their guns and shooting left and right. I think it makes it pretty lethal. The guns, I think, the designers of Iron Kingdoms did a good job of making the weapons, the sort of pseudo-modern weapons, feel lethal, right? They found scatter guns. They're using, magic. One of the characters has a mage pistol. Another character has, both pistol and magic, so he uses them in tandem depending on the situation, right? So it's pretty neat. It's pretty good. And one character is a mechanic, so he can fix everything. Huh. So I'm really enjoying the game. This group wants me to run another game when we go back to live game sessions at Dragon's Lair in San Antonio. So we'll see how it goes. I really would like to continue Iron Kingdoms. I think everyone gets the verse. It's pretty, even a player who had never played War Machine or Hordes, never played the previous incarnation of the Iron Kingdoms RPG, like the rest of us, seems to really be getting into it and into his character. He's basically a trader smuggler from a country that had been at war for a long time, that neighbors Signar, where they're at, and he's planning to become a duelist. So like if you can imagine, like a rapier and pistol, like a musketeer type. That's what he's going to do. And he's basically been the face. He's negotiated for the characters to get more money and make sure they get their bounty, and he negotiated the contract. So I think this player is really loves that kind of stuff, gets into it. I did make the comment from one of the NPCs, you don't quit, do you? Don't shut up, do you? So it was good role playing. You can role play in these games, even though there's a lot of fighting and combat. And I would say this time, even though the players tried to take prisoners, in the heat of battle, I mean, when a steam jack slams you in the head for like 12 points, and you're already injured, my cat is saying hi. Well, I guess exactly what the cat said. You're meowed. Okay, well, that's all I got for today. I just wanted to get these recollections in before my memory fades. So everyone, I hope you have a good weekend. The games I'm planning on this weekend, I think it's a fun-filled Memorial Day weekend full of games. Hold on, another cat is messing with stuff. Cats are funny creatures. They want to be around you, but they don't want to be around you. They want for your attention. And in fact, my cat here, Grayson, is clawing at me for attention. So I'll pet him behind his ears. Anyway, so this weekend, I believe I do not have a Saturday game. However, I do have possibly 3 Sunday games with America, Road to the Iron Gods, and Deadlands. So we'll pick it up next week, I think. when I feel the whim. Thank you guys again for the call-ins. I'll try to put as much people that I mentioned in the show notes, but I'm new to this, so forgive me if I forget to put you down. Anyway, have a good rest of the week and happy gaming.